The Australian Army is undergoing the most consequential reorientation of its role, force structure and capability mix since the post-Vietnam period. This shift is not incremental, and it reflects a deliberate reassessment of how Australia expects conflict to manifest in its region, and what contribution land forces must make to deterrence and warfighting in the Indo-Pacific. At the centre of this transformation is the decision to optimise the Army for littoral warfare. That decision has implications not only for how the Army trains and equips, but for how it integrates with maritime and air power, how it postured geographically, and how it is expected to operate in a future peer-level conflict. Australia's contemporary defence planning is grounded in the assumption that strategic warning time has narrowed significantly. The operating environment is characterised by pervasive sensing, long-range precision strikes, and the integration of space and cyber effects from the outset of a conflict. Distance alone is no longer a reliable source of strategic depth. Within this context, Australia's geography is increasingly described not simply as an island continent, but as a large landmass situated at the southern terminus of a complex land and maritime system extending through Southeast Asia and the Pacific. That system is dominated by archipelagos, straits, ports, and coastal infrastructure. Control of these littoral spaces determines the ability to project power, sustain forces, and maintain freedom of manoeuvre. Equally, denial of those spaces can impose disproportionate costs on a would-be adversary. The assessment that followed was explicit. An Australian army shaped by 2 decades of counterinsurgency and stabilisation operations was not optimised for this environment. The force had evolved to generate small, rotational land contingents for distant theatres, rather than to persist, manoeuvre and deny access in Australia's near region. The shift towards littoral warfare is the Army's response to that assessment. In Army doctrine, the littoral is defined as the area of the sea that influences the land and the area of the land that influences the sea. This definition deliberately extends beyond physical geography to include ports, airfields, population centres, logistics infrastructure, and the electromagnetic spectrum. For the Army, littoral warfare does not imply a primary focus on amphibious assault. Rather, it reflects the understanding that land forces can exert decisive influence over maritime operations when positioned in key terrain. Land forces are inherently persistent. They are harder to detect than ships, more survivable than aircraft, and well suited to operating in complex, cluttered environments such as urban coastlines, jungle, and archipelagic terrain. When integrated into a joint system, they provide positional advantage and denial effects rather than manoeuvre advantage alone. This logic underpins the Army's reorientation. In a peer-level conflict, defence planning assumes joint, multi-domain operations from the outset. Large fixed installations will be vulnerable. Signature management, dispersion, and mobility will be essential to survival. In a peer-level conflict, defence planning assumes joint, multi-domain operations are going to be conducted by a foreign adversary from the outset. Large fixed installations will be vulnerable. Signature management, dispersion, and mobility will be essential to survivability. Within this construct, the Army's role is to enable joint force projection while denying that same advantage to an adversary. Army forces are expected to secure and control key land positions that underpin joint operations: ports, airfields, logistics nodes, and forward operating locations. At the same time, they are expected to deny adversaries access to equivalent terrain and infrastructure. Crucially, land forces create dilemmas that cannot be resolved solely through standoff fires. A dispersed, concealed land force occupying key terrain forces an adversary to either commit disproportionate resources to suppression or accept constrained freedom of manoeuvre. Long-range, land-based fires further extend this influence into the maritime domain, reinforcing a strategy of denial rather than dominance. To support this role, the Army is reorienting all 3 of its regular combat brigades towards littoral and amphibious operations. The 1st Brigade in Darwin is being reshaped as a light, agile formation optimised for operations in northern environments and the employment of long-range fires. The 3rd Brigade in Townsville, already the Army's amphibious corps, is being reinforced as the centre of gravity for armoured and amphibious manoeuvre. The 7th Brigade in Brisbane retains a high readiness role but is increasingly aligned with littoral concepts rather than purely expeditionary land operations. A significant organisational change accompanying this shift is the establishment of littoral lift groups. These formations are designed to provide the Army with organic maritime mobility, reducing reliance on Navy shipping for intra-theatre manoeuvre. Basing decisions are integral to this construct. Northern Australia, particularly Townsville, Darwin and supporting facilities in North Queensland, is increasingly central to Army posture, reducing transit times and improving operational availability. The material centrepiece of the Army's littoral shift is the creation of an organic watercraft capability under the Littoral Manoeuvre Program. Central to this effort is the acquisition of two complementary vessel types, the Landing Craft Medium and the Landing Craft Heavy. The Army is acquiring 18 Landing Craft Medium with up to 8 Landing Craft Heavy, intending to operate as an integrated system rather than as independent platforms. This distinction is important. Army leadership has been explicit that the medium craft achieve their full operational utility when paired with the heavy vessel. The Landing Craft Medium is intended to provide tactical and operational mobility for Army forces operating along coastlines and between islands. It is designed to carry up to 90 tonnes of payload, equivalent to approximately 4 HIMARS launches, or a comparable mix of vehicles, artillery and sustainment loads. This payload capacity places the LCM firmly in the category of manoeuvre and sustainment asset, rather than as a simple ship-to-shore connector. Range is one of the most significant disclosed characteristics. When operating in conjunction with the Landing Craft Heavy, the LCM is expected to achieve a range of up to 2,000 nautical miles. This figure is notable in an Army context and reflects the distances evolved in Australia's northern and near-regional operating environment. The design of the Landing Craft Medium has been produced by Burden. Construction of the LCM has been undertaken by Austal at the Henderson Defence Precinct in Western Australia. The Landing Craft Heavy is intended to provide endurance, sustainment and reach for the overall system. While detailed payloads and performance figures have not yet been publicly released, its role is clearly defined. The LCH is designed to extend the operational reach of the medium craft, carrying heavier loads and enabling longer duration deployments without reliance on fixed ports or continuous Navy support. It functions as the backbone of the littoral manoeuvre system rather than as a traditional amphibious assault platform. Construction of the Landing Craft Heavy is also assigned to Austal, with negotiations and final government approvals ongoing. Infrastructure development to support both vessel types is planned across Darwin, North Queensland and South East Queensland. From an industrial perspective, this program represents a sustained shipbuilding effort rather than a boutique acquisition. Austal leadership has publicly acknowledged that delivering the Army's littoral fleet will require a workforce expansion of approximately 1,000 additional personnel. Army leadership has described these vessels as capabilities the Army has not possessed in any number since Vietnam. That phrasing is deliberate. The intent is to normalise maritime manoeuvre as a routine method of Army operations, rather than an exceptional activity. Sustainment is a recurring theme in all the Army's littoral concept documents, informed heavily by historical experiences in the Southwest Pacific. The littoral environment imposes severe demands on logistics. Saltwater corrosion, limited infrastructure, environmental extremes, and long distances all increase sustainment risk. The Army's transition to a new amphibious vehicle logistics is a direct response to this reality. The AVL is designed to operate as both a deep-water amphibious platform and a road-legal vehicle. It enables ship-to-shore and ship-to-inland logistics without reliance on port infrastructure. Its design reflects a requirement for persistent sustainment under contested and austere conditions, rather than convenience or efficiency alone. This capability underpins the viability of dispersed littoral operations. Another defining feature of the Army's transformation is the prioritisation of long-range land-based fires, including systems capable of engaging maritime targets. From a denial perspective, land-based fires offer favourable survivability and cost exchange ratios. Mobile launchers integrated into joint ISR and targeting networks can threaten naval forces at significant ranges while remaining difficult to locate and suppress. This expands the Army's contribution beyond traditional land combat and positions it as a central component of maritime denial within Australia's broader strategy. If you'd like to know more, I have a few videos on the channel on both HIMARS and Strikemaster. While the language and technology are modern, the underlying logic is not. During the Second World War, the Australian Army adapted rapidly to littoral and amphibious warfare in the Pacific. Operations at Milne Bay, Lae, Finschhaven, and across Borneo demonstrated that control of land was decisive in a maritime theatre. The current shift reflects a re-engagement with that historical reality, adapted to contemporary conditions of precision strike, joint integration, and information dominance. It's not a groundbreaking statement to say that force structure reveals strategic intent. The Army's shift towards littoral warfare indicates that Australia expects future conflict to be regional, maritime in character, and highly contested from the outset. It reflects a move away from dominance-based assumptions towards a strategy grounded in denial and positional advantage. This is not a peripheral adjustment. It is a redefinition of the Army's role within the integrated force. The transition will take time. Capabilities must be delivered, personnel trained, and infrastructure matured, but the direction is set. The Australian Army is being designed to shape the maritime environment from the land outward, and by doing so, play a central role in Australia's approach to deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. If you found this useful, or at least mildly less wrong than most defense takes on the internet, please consider liking and subscribing. I really appreciate it. G'day legends, I really hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a long time in the making. I just want to give a huge shout out to the certified legends who are members of the channel: Wester42, Egg Benny, Shelliver Yoshi, Intelligenting, Jake Shippard, and Deepeye. I appreciate you all. If you guys would like to be certified members, we have a podcast released every Friday, limited to just the members on the channel, talking about anything that doesn't quite meet a full video, as it were. Fair winds and following seas. I'll see you all next time.